Right. So I'm going to go ahead and start to get folks checked in. I see we have Wes Menzel from the zoning department here today. I have someone under Darren's PC.
Yes, you have Darren Hall.
Okay. Darren, could you spell your last name for me?
Hall.
Okay. And who are you representing here today?
I'm
Mr.
the
Hall?
property owner.
Okay, great. Welcome. Mr. Hall, do you intend on providing any testimony here today?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Welcome. Greg Snyder, are you with us? Mr. Snyder, can you hear me? Mr. Snyder, can you hear me? Doesn't appear so. Wes, can you hear me?
Yes. I can.
Okay. Let me see if I can find Mr. Snyder's contact information. It does not appear that he is able to hear me at the moment. Mr. Snyder, if at any point you can hear me, just go ahead and speak up.
Sorry, your call did not.
Let's see. Mr. Hall, do you have a good contact for Mr. Snyder?
Try 513-205-9881.
Okay, trying that now. Okay, I think he just muted the call. Mr. Snyder? Yeah. Mr. Snyder, I wonder if he can see us. Give that one more try. Just
All right, you still there?
can you hear me at all now through the screen?
I do, yep.
Testing again, Mr. Snyder. Anything? Anything?
Let me switch over. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're just gonna wait for him to call in. He's gonna try to use his telephone as a speaker, so should just be another couple minutes. Whoops. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can absolutely hear you now. Sorry for the delay on that.
Hey, no problem at all. My name is David Skirky. I'm the zoning hearing examiner. I'll be presiding over the hearing today. Welcome, Mr. Snyder. Looks like you are the applicant with RDA. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started then. Need to read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the October 4th, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. The case before us today is case number ZH20230141. That's 3612 Clarion Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any potential opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If we did have anyone here from the public, which we do not at this time, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I will take testimony from the zoning plans examiner, Wes Menzel. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. I'll have some questions along the way, and then finally the applicant can make any closing remarks. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents that's generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present at the hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties, as we've already seen, I will do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. I think our only members are going to be testifying during this will be Mr. Schneider and Mr. Menzel. So I'm going to go ahead and swear you both in collectively right now. The zoning code requires that I swear anyone in that's providing testimony in this hearing. So if you could raise your right hand, and I need you to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Snyder, are you ready to proceed?
I'm ready.
Okay, floor is yours.
All right. Just a little table setting here. This project is part of a larger project to redevelop the corner of Brooks and Clarion. There are currently plans for a new house on this parcel that is the subject of this hearing, and a parcel to the north, and then redevelopment of a existing house on the corner parcel. The long-range plan for this, which will be about 2 years from now, is to then infill 2 additional houses on this overall site, one on either side of the existing house. So for a total of 5 single-family houses on this kind of collection of what will eventually be 5 parcels, what is currently 3 parcels. The reason we're here today is to discuss relief from the buffer yard requirements. As noted, we would like to do single-family house here to match all the rest of the development that's occurring here. However, there's kind of an anomaly on the zoning map, which makes this parcel not an SF2 parcel like the adjacent parcels are. The zoning map just kind of jogs right here for whatever reason and matches some of the development over to the east, which are commercial in nature. We looked at trying to follow the buffer yard requirements for this, but it's prohibitive at the transition between our single family projects. To do so, it would put us all the way up against the property line on the east, which would require a firewall. It would prohibit us from having any parking in the rear of these houses, so we have to be relying on street parking. In the best interest of everybody, we think that we can develop this parcel consistent with the way the remaining parcels are going to be developed, with shared parking, shared egress in the rear, provided that the zoning relief can be achieved under the current zoning standards and not have to go through the process of changing the zoning just for this parcel to an SF2, which we think it should be inherently. But that's kind of where we are on this. I think we meet all of the zoning requirements for this in SF2 district, and we have done our best to provide some buffer between the commercial area to the east and our parcel. Just with the way the lot is set up, we intend to heavily landscape that buffer yard just as a convenience to the residents or owner occupants of these buildings. But so I open up to any questions. Appreciate Wes's help kind of working through all this with us over the last couple of months here. So
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that testimony. Wes, did you want to provide any testimony?
Not really in addition to my staff report, other than like the required buffer yard would make it impossible for them to build anything on that lot. And that the zoning, even though it's commercial zoning, they still require a buffer yard, even though it's a residential use being proposed. So that's why they had to go through the relief process. So.
Gotcha. So it's that just to make sure I'm clear, it's the commercial property to the southeast that requires the buffer yard, even though this is residential.
Yeah, the buffer yard is required on the west side of the property that abuts the single family zoning.
Oh, I gotcha.
So they don't need a buffer yard on the east side. It's just the west side and the north side. But the way they've positioned their, you can't. The lot is only 33 feet wide. So if you do a 15-foot wide buffer, you're left with 18 feet, and then you need a setback on the other side. Like it gets physically impossible to build a house. So.
Guess the CN commercial buffer yards might be a little bit of a blind spot for me. So because this is a CNM zoning district, that's what requires the buffer yard regardless of the type of use that's going in the space if it's next to residential?
Correct, yes. And it
Gotcha.
requires
And
the
that's
buffer
kind of
yard,
what,
yeah. It requires
yeah,
the
that's
buffer
what
yard
tripped us
even
up
though,
on.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just more table side. That's kind of what tripped us up on this when we were originally proposing to do this development. We did not realize when we were doing our due diligence that buffer yard requirement would apply, even though it was going to be single family to single family on that west property line. So
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Wes, anything else you wanted to add there?
No, I think they're,
All right. Yeah, I don't believe that I have any more questions. I think this is pretty straightforward at this point. Mr. Snyder, anything you wanted to provide in closing or otherwise, or in response to anything that Wes has said or any of my questions?
no, sir. We appreciate the recommendation for approval of this relief from the staff, and hope that you see that in the same light. So.
Yep. Well, I do. And I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code on this. So I think that's why we have these special exceptions in place. And so I am going to approve the requested relief. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. And that, as I said at the beginning, typically takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get that out to you as quickly as possible. What I do is, as soon as I finish the written decision, I put it into a PDF and I'll email it to everyone who's in the hearing here today. So you all have a copy of it, really just moments after it's complete. As soon as you have that, then Wes can approve the permitting on his end, and hopefully you all can move forward. At least from a zoning
Great.
perspective, you can move forward with that.
Yeah, I think that's our last piece we need here. So I appreciate everybody's help making this happen.
All right, fantastic. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out, or if you'd like a status update on the decision, you can reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to provide that to you.
We'll do that. Thank you.